Hello and welcome to the Fenland Chat Hour. I'm producer Dave and we're joined by our usual co-host Amanda Carlin.
Hello, producer Dave.
Hello Amanda. Today is Thursday, it's the 14th of May and it is episode 20 and it's the last show.
We're going to have time on our hands, David. Oh no, we won't, we've got work.
Yeah, I was going to say what we're going to do with all this time. So yes, I mean that's, we've talked about it without going over it too much, but yes, life is slowly returning to normal, and just giving up the time to do this on twice a week has got to the point where it's no longer feasible, and we feel that it's kind of served a purpose. It served its role through the lockdown, and things have changed. We're now sort of coming out of lockdown. The world has changed. People's attitudes to lockdown has changed. So we've kind of feel that we've done what we need to do in this current format. I think we would have to change the format to something different if we were to carry on. But we've kind of done what we said we were going to do, and this is the end of the road for it.
Yes.
So this is the last aired show. We have an interview with Julia Sinclair-Brown, who is a bereavement coach. So you'll hear a bit of that on the show, and then you will hear episode 21, which will be the full episode, which will be tomorrow. That's probably 6 o'clock. That will be released to the world. Definitely worth a listen, because it covers a lot of the things that we've dealt with over the weeks, and that was part of the questions that I asked. Were a lot of them were actually derived from the topics that we'd come across. So there's some useful answers in there regarding bosses, employees, employers bringing people back into work, and how to deal with loss at this time from people who are, or families who are going through COVID losses. So it's all useful stuff, and lots of information that's changed as well, because even Julia was saying that things have been updated in the last month or so. New rules and regulations for funerals and rules and regulations and stuff. So lots of useful information in that. So definitely give that a listen. Yes,
that sounds very interesting.
It is. It was an interesting talk, and I would certainly recommend it. So what we're going to do, slightly change of order today. So we're just going to do a shorter news, and we're going to do all the news and round up at the start. First one is the self-assessment applications portal is now open, or it has been open for a while, but it's now been updated. So now you can actually put in your links, so you can go on there and have a look at whether you qualify for the self-assessment grants, and then how to actually go through it. So it gives you a list of all the information that you need. It looks fairly straightforward. It's something I'm going to be doing tomorrow when I've got a chance. That's up and running. Just also at the top of my head, as furlough's been extended until October, so that's good news on that. What also did find was quite interesting is in Hong Kong, they did a study on the effects of coronavirus and passing, and what they've done is they used a restaurant scenario. They had actors cooking and eating and being customers and staff, and then they had one person go in with paint, like an ultraviolet paint, which was effectively the bacteria, the COVID bacteria, and then they allowed the evening to progress, and they then went off and shut off all the lights and got the UV lights out, and you can see where contamination has happened, and they're saying just one person has basically affected so much, and it depends on whereabout in the chain that person is. So it's passed on to glasses, it's onto other people, onto food, and to surfaces and stuff, and that's been quite enlightening. And they're so desperate to try and make people aware that how infectious and how far people can spread just by contamination, by touch, by transmission, just by touching surfaces and things. And that's not even including the airborne stuff. That's not even looking at, sneezing and coughing. This is just basically transmission through touch.
Scary, isn't it?
It is. But that's all the news of interest from me. Have you got anything?
Yes, thank you. Fenland District Council are calling landlords to help bus sleepers who are presently in emergency housing. They want to move them out of the emergency housing into permanent housing during the pandemic. So if you have got a property available, Fenland District Council would like to hear from you.
Okay.
And I don't know all the ins and outs about payment, but I know that the district council would be covering the payments.
Okay, that's good to know that they're going to be supporting it.
Yeah.
Right. Next, we'll go. Is that everything news-wise?
That's everything for news. Do you want me to do my rural roundups?
Yeah, we'll do all that together.
All of it together. Okay. So, a rural roundup. A Doddington resident. This is very sad, David.
Okay. They
suddenly lost their lively dog a couple of days ago. Within 12 hours, the little dog was poorly from the very early hours of the morning, was vomiting for several hours and then started to pass blood. So the owners took their pet to the emergency vet, who thought it was a severe case of viral gastroenteritis, and they did think that the pet could be saved, but sadly not. And the vet's final thoughts were that the dog may have picked something up walking along, or perhaps drank some dirty water. So the owners have put a message out saying, please watch out for your animals. You don't want to be in the same situation as us. Try and stop your animals from sniffing and licking as you take them on walks.
Yeah.
They do automatically do that, don't they? They just stop in the middle of the pavement.
Yeah, and it depends on how big and strong the dog is,
Exactly.
whether you can stop them doing that.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think dogs are having a pretty hard time right now, really, because when you take them for a walk and they see somebody they know, they want to run up to them and give them a hug.
Yeah.
It's ever so hard for them really right now.
Yeah, it's definitely confusing for a lot of animals because it's something that you just can't explain to them.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And they're naturally tactile, most animals, aren't they? Life in lockdown, going to life in lockdown, Wimbledon and Stoney, they've got a working and volunteering page, and they've sourced lots of work that can be carried out from home, but they've got some really good roles from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Metrobank, whole loads of places. So it's worth having a look if you're looking for new work and you want to work from home to keep safe.
Oh, brilliant.
And next Thursday, the 21st of May, there will be a large convoy of lorries leaving Jack's in Chatham.
Yeah.
At 6 p.m. And they'll be travelling through. Now, I don't quite understand this route because it says here they'll be travelling through Doddington, Wimbledon, Benwick, Ramsey, 40-foot, Ramsey, Mearside, Whittlesey, and then going on to Peterborough Hospital. I don't understand why they'd be coming to Wimbledon, to be honest, because I can work out the road. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it? But anyway, that's what it says. And the intention is that they'll be going to Peterborough Hospital ready for the National Clap for Carers. There's more information on the NHS Truckers Facebook page. And the truckers would like to be waved at as they go by. If you see them, they are also key workers. And they're doing a really good job keeping us all fed and warm at this difficult time. And I think that's my news,
So
David.
that's tonight then, is it?
No, that will be next
Thursday. Okay.
Yes, the 21st. Yeah.
Well, I think I'll certainly make myself over there and go and have a look at all the trucks.
It'd be great, wouldn't it?
It'll be great to see it.
Are you going to take your camera?
I will do, yes. I will try and film it.
Some photos. Yes.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. So,
Thank you.
well, as soon as I can walk there, it's keep.
Oh, do you use the underpass?
Well, I can do, yeah. It's quite short.
You're right. Yeah, that's good.
I tend not to. I tend to drive there because by the time you've got your shopping, it's too heavy to carry.
Well, that is a good point. Yeah, because you wouldn't go for just one or two items, would you?
No. Certainly not at the moment.
No.
So, okay, that's the news and roundup. Now, looking at the stats, I thought, right, the daily stats for today is number of cases. Well, in the number of cases in the world, it's just coming up to 4.5 million. Number of UK cases is 229,705, and the total of deaths so far is 33,186. And just to compare that to the next stadium, which we normally do, is Cardiff City Stadium.
That's it.
Yeah, Cardiff City Football Club, which has a capacity of 33,280. So, yeah, it's... Yeah. But what I did was I went back to the first episode and had a listen back this morning, just to see how it's changed from what we've done, our first attempts at broadcasting. But just comparing the figures, you know, the number of cases then was at 19,840, and the number of deaths was 1,905, and we thought at the time, you know, that was a lot. So 31,000 deaths have occurred since then.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
That really does put it into perspective, David. Doesn't it? 209,000 cases since then. So yeah, it's quite sobering when you see how much it's changed. And our first episode was aired on the 27th of March. So that's... I mean, proportionally
seven weeks now.
Yes, yeah, and proportionally wise, we have got a lot of cases, haven't we?
Yeah.
Really? That's... Wow. It's really shocking.
And also at the beginning then, they were only testing hospital cases.
Yeah.
Because it hadn't really I don't think it actually got to... I don't know how much it had actually started affecting care homes, but obviously that then became a bigger part as the months went on. It did become a bigger part of the statistics. So, okay. So yeah, that's how the stats have changed. Now, next we would ask what Doris would do, but Doris has been busy. She's been reviewing the pictures that have been done for the art competition.
We had some lovely entries. They were wonderful, and we made Doris's day. Yay! Gail had a really tough job in judging.
Yeah.
So we're going to put the winning pictures up, are we, David, on the social media pages?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to put them up, and we'll probably include the top three, well, the winners of each on this video as well, which should be appearing about now, just like magic.
So the sunshine one, the little one, 0 to 10 years.
Yep.
Gail thought looked like the sun, and that reminded her of Doris because she's a ray of sunshine.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, but a lot of hard work gone into them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not just stick drawings.
No, yeah, I've seen the other two. They are quite impressive.
Yeah. Like, I thought, oh, we'll get a stick. It's my vote.
Well, that's what my intro would have been.
Yes. Mine too. So, because we've got children that have submitted, we won't give names or locations out.
We might refer to the first name only.
Yes.
We can do that.
Yes, and the winners have been notified, and they're very happy to have been chosen.
Well, thank you for Doris for being such an inspiration. Thank you for Gail for sorting out the competition and judging. Thank you for everyone who submitted the pictures, and we'll look forward to seeing all the results, all the finalists.
Yes,
which should be sort of up here somewhere. Like and subscribe and look for pictures up there. Isn't that the thing? You're supposed to sort of point at parts of the screen and say like and subscribe and all the usual good stuff, which we haven't done.
I feel like an air hostess.
Yeah. It's when you start getting bits dropping down from the ceiling as well.
Yeah.
Fenland Airlines.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Fen Air. That's what we want. Fen Air. There's an idea for someone. Well, I did see a fake advert the other day, one of these clickbait adverts, and it came up and it said, "Oh, do you know sort of the amazing costs or low prices will amaze you at private jets at Huntington Airport?" I went,
Huntington Airport?
We haven't even got to Huntington Airport, so it was like, what amazing deals are these then? Are they? But it shows that, they take a concept advert and then they just change it to whatever location is near you. So it doesn't actually take into account the fact that there isn't actually anything there. So always be aware of what you're clicking onto.
Yes, that's a good lesson. So
next we're going to go on to a segment of interview. The interview today is with Julia Sinclair-Brown, the bereavement coach. So we'll do a snippet of the interview and we'll have the full interview tomorrow. So we'll hand over to Julia Sinclair-Brown now. Hi, this is Fenland Chatter, and today we're talking to Julia Sinclair-Brown. How are you today?
Hi there, David. Yeah, I'm Julia Sinclair-Brown, and I'm a bereavement coach and trainer.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear from you, and hopefully we'll learn a lot about you and your project and your coursework. So can you just give us, tell us who you are and a bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, of course. Yes. Well, I've had a mixed bag sort of background. I started out originally working in the holistic field. I qualified as a counsellor, aromatherapist, and sort of went down that therapeutic line of work, but then moved into a more corporate business setting and worked in HR, learning and development, training, and my life sort of changed a bit, particularly when I left London. I had a son and I started working from home as a career coach, and it was during this time when my son was actually very young that I started to lose close family members. It was a 5-year period where I just had a series of bereavements. It was a really, really difficult time for me. And I recognised that I wasn't coping. After trying to ignore it, I recognised that I really had to address it. And I did, and I started therapy for myself and really went on a journey of healing, I would say, from grief. And I sort of carried on and felt at this time that maybe there was something I wanted to do in this field of supporting others who've been through grief, but actually pushed that away for quite a long time and just carried on with my career work. And then it was only a couple of years ago when my dad actually became very ill, had a serious fall, and I had took some time off, and I started writing what was to originally be a book, but it then became a course. I decided I was going to write a course in bereavement where I could support people with something that they could do in their own time at home, to help them through the early days, weeks, months when grief can be, well, when it's so raw, it's so painful, and when we probably then need the most help. And so I've been working on that course, and very excited that that'll be coming out later on this year. In the meantime, I also set up my business Evolvida, where I offer one-to-one bereavement therapy, coaching style to my clients. And actually, I have to say, in this period of lockdown, I've also taken a bit of time out to reflect on what I want to do next with my business, whether I want to carry on doing the one-to-ones or take it in a different avenue. And something that really has inspired for me, and I've done quite a bit of research on this, has been that I think a lot of employers are struggling to know how to deal with people who are bereaved, and what highlighted that has been the pandemic, and there is more grief and loss around in a more, I mean that also in a generic way besides bereavement itself. But speaking to people, doing some research, I realised I think there's a real gap, and whilst lots of employers are really understanding the benefits of good mental health now in the workplace and seeing the importance of keeping their staff well, I still think there's not enough around the area of grief. And that's probably because, well, I'd say largely we are in a grief-averse culture. People don't like to talk about it. So when it happens, nobody really knows how to handle it. So I've decided that I think that is something that will be very much needed by employers, not just because of the pandemic, but I think there's been this gap for a long time. And so this period of lockdowns made me think about that more, and how I can help those employers with staff who are maybe bereaved from COVID, but also just in life anyway. We're all gonna face loss at some point, and I think because I've got my HR training, coaching background, I felt like I could put all of that together and build that other branch into my business. So that's currently where I'm at with my work.
Just following on from that, sort of coming back to work, do you have advice for businesses on how to gradually get employees back to work, obviously when all the restrictions have been lifted, for advice for employers how they would actually bring people back in? Because it's not going to be something that's straightforward. You can't just let everyone return. I know they're talking about having staggered shifts and things like overlapping, so that not everybody's back at the same time, and sort of bringing people slowly back into the office.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think that's going to be very much governed by the rules that our government are now deciding upon, and we will hear more about that very shortly. So I think the safety issues are the primary concern, and rightly they should be, about keeping people safe at work. So I think whatever instructions your employer has about that, from the employer's perspective, yeah, you've got to follow what the advice is on keeping people as safe as possible. So that's on a practical level. From an emotional level, what I would say to employers though is, for people that are returning, so you could almost compare what's happened in the world right now to some kind of a trauma for many people. This is something that we've never ever experienced before, and who knows, we'll ever experience it again in our lifetime. But none of us have actually been ready or equipped for this. So I think there is an emotional aspect of this that will affect employees. And I think employers should give people a space to talk. And I think whether the people have been bereaved or they've just been, as I say, partly traumatized from all of this, I think there should be opportunities for people's voices to be heard, for some well-being type of meetings, just to check in on people, see how they're doing. Does anyone need any extra support? What can that employer put in place? Just you need to, the employers need to make sure that their teams are okay, and as much as can be, besides the practical aspects of looking after them, I do think there is a responsibility towards their emotional well-being. So I would say, yeah, make sure there are forums or some kind of way of allowing people to express how they've been feeling in lockdown, and express how they feel also about returning to the workplace as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to listen to you, and hopefully people can take something from there. There's a lot of information. They can come and find you on your website and Facebook pages as well, and you've got courses that you've got lined up as well. So you've got a lot of stuff out there now, and a lot of stuff to come. So we'll put links onto your Facebook page with this as well, so they can find you. But it's been lovely to talk to you.
Likewise, David. Really enjoyable. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's been great to be able to talk about my work, and because I have felt right now it's been really pertinent actually, and that's why I sort of felt a need to get writing straight away, and there's so much I wanted to say about it. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Really appreciated.
All the best with the course, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, David. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much to Julia Sinclair-Brown for that wonderful, just an excerpt of the interview, and you can hear the rest of the amazing interview tomorrow Friday at 6 o'clock. But we'd also like to give a big thanks out to all the others who have participated over the weeks. Big thank you to Johnny D, who allowed us to use his lockdown video in episode 1. We had an interview with local artist Richard Savage in episode 2. We had chats with Andrew Callahan and his daughter Maddie, who are part of Echo Company, and they talked about fire and cooking and all good stuff like that. Episode 14, we had a chat with Jodie about films that are planned for next year to do with migrants and gangmasters. We had an amazing chat with Asa French about the work that they're doing to provide scrubs and masks for the NHS. We've had a really positive response from the interview with Tilly Rose, the local textile artist and author, and that's been really good. That was an excellent, wonderful interview with there. And Julia's, which you'll hear tomorrow. So thank you to everyone who's taken part and volunteered the time to sit on the end of a phone for an hour and just gabble on and just answer all my questions. So yeah, big thanks you to everyone that's taken part with them.
That's a lot of interviews, isn't it? When you list them like that, when you think off the top of your head, you think, oh, we had some interviews, but we've had lots of interviews and they were all really good.
Yeah, and we had possible lined up for about 3 or 4 more as well, which were on the card. So sadly, we won't be able to hear all of them, to get around to talking to them all. But we were going to talk to Skylarks and Ravenswood and a couple of other places as well, which had shown an interest as well. So apologies to them for not getting around to or being around so we can actually to do it.
Yeah.
So, what have we done? I thought it would be interesting just to go back over the episodes that we've done and just see what we did and how things have changed. Now, I actually listened to the first episode from back on the 27th, and apart from being so excruciating It was interesting to see how far we've come.
Yes.
We have changed our style quite a bit. We were kind of feeling our way through the show because we just didn't know what we were doing. So it was a pilot episode, and we just went for it. But it's interesting how much hasn't changed. The main format hasn't changed too much. We've included an extra couple of bits. But in that one, we were talking about we had the video from John Devine. We had difficulty trying to fill 1 hour, which was quite interesting because now we're trying to cut it back to 1 hour. So it was the first mention of Captain Tom.
Oh yes.
He was actually just starting his 100 laps, and that would just come to the news, so that was interesting. Boris had just been tested positive for coronavirus, and we talked about Skylarks and how they were changing what they did, because they were having to, obviously with lockdown, they had, like many other companies, they were having to change how they were dealing with customers. And also we put a warning out for sort of difficult companies, you know, in their approach to dealing with staff and employees and customers as well, and how people remember them.
Yes, absolutely.
So the first few episodes, we did 3 episodes a week, and then we went down to 2. The second episode, we focused mainly on sort of comparing how this was very much like the Second World War, and how we'd go back to digging for victory, you know, turning over the garden, and you know, if this lockdown had carried on and food was in such short supplies.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
We were going to have to start digging over the garden and using it to grow crops. But you can still do that anyway. You know, it's all part of learning. I mean, kids are going to be out of school probably. Well, most of them are going to be out until the end of August, September time anyway. So you might as well use the summer to learn gardening as one of the homeschooling lessons.
It's a good idea.
In episode 3, we had the great Easter egg debate.
Oh my goodness, that's right, because some people were having a go if people bought Easter eggs because they're not essentials, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Well, they most definitely are essential. They're essential in this house.
I think you try and explain to a 5-year-old why they can't have an Easter egg. You know,
let alone a 5-year-old. Try and explain to a 50-plus-year-old woman.
I can empathise. And the care packages started being delivered to the people who are vulnerable and stuck indoors. So. Episode 4 was the announcement of the comet, and I can't remember off the top of my head what comet was called. Hang on, do I still have it? That was episode 4. Now it was kind of disappointing because it was supposed to be the big thing and everyone was going to be able to see it and with an eye. And then it kind of broke up. Yeah. And
it wasn't as dramatic as the Starlink, was it?
No.
I can't remember what it's called either.
Just having back through my notes, just seeing if I'd got it written down. Oh, Atlas, that was it. Comet Atlas.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, that was supposed to be it. It then broke up into 4 pieces and then just faded away. So we kind of lost that in April. That was going to be the big bright thing. It was going to be as bright as Venus, apparently. So, yeah, that faded off. I can't remember when we actually looked at Starlink satellites, but it was a bit later on. But that was a time when all the lights and everything was in the right position so that they were being illuminated for a week. and everyone could go and see it. Well, funny enough, that's what's happening this week as well. This next week is going to be a good time to see the Starlink satellites going over, so you'll start seeing the trails again. And we've got clear sky at the moment for the next couple of days, so it's a good time to have a look. Episode 5, we had Doris had her fall.
Oh, yes, of course.
She's feeling a lot better now, is she? She's more mobile.
Oh, yes. Yes, she is. Thank you.
And then we looked at tigers who had caught coronavirus in the Bronx Zoo.
We haven't heard much about those since, have we?
No. That was one of the things I was going to mention. Is like that's kind of gone very, very quiet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was just how. First of all, at the time we were talking about there was a lot of issue with fake news. I'm assuming that this was the case, but I suppose if the cats are being quarantined and there's no people going to the zoos, then it's not an issue, and either it's passed. Like everybody else, they would have just felt like rubbish for a couple of weeks, and it's then departed from the body, and they've carried on. So I suppose if there's no other further transmission, then there would be no further news to the story.
Be interesting to look that up, actually. And I think the thing is that the most news that comes out of America at the moment is very centred around their president, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, he had another meltdown a couple of days ago, where he started attacking, verbally abusing the journalists, and with a racist bias. And you're just thinking, why are the press still going there? Why are they turning up to his press conferences? But CNN were out for blood, because he was having a go at the CNN reporters as well as the CBS reporters, and they just it was quite funny because they just went, well, here's a tape we've got of him verbally abusing females on media, and they just reeled this 5-minute video of him just being obnoxious and insulting. So that was interesting.
You know something, David? We have to put our trust in the American people, clearly. But I'm going to go out there and say it. If he wins an election, it'll be a travesty. We can't have this anymore. It's not just America that has to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually listening to a podcast last night, and they were talking about whether they would actually move the American election, and also how they would go about it, whether they would use postal votes or the problems that brings. I mean, we've cancelled our local elections this year to next year. But obviously, the thing is, with American elections, they take 2 years to organise. So it's not something you can just stop and move and change or just shift slightly. So I can imagine it's. I don't know what they're going to do.
No, I do wonder at what point Donald Trump might come to realise that his supporters believe in every word that he says. He could actually lose a lot of support because, if those people aren't socially distancing and if they aren't staying home when they should, they're going to be the ones that become poorly, unfortunately.
Yeah. What gets me is that he is trying to run the country like a business.
Yes, he is, isn't he?
He's actually trying to the people of America are his employees.
Yes.
He's actually trying to run it like staff. And that's what he's trying to do. So he's trying to get everyone who's like, oh, can't I be just sat around doing nothing? I want you to be back working and getting the economy going. So he's got that business approach to the country, and it's a case of households, you are employees. You should be back out getting back to work.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know what will be the end there.
So episode 6, we had the first talks about being furloughed.
Yes.
And we had lots of breaches of lockdown. Lots of that was going on. Episode 7 was the interview with the Echo Company. 8 was the start of council meetings or the reintroduction of council meetings and the start of pet food deliveries by local vets.
Oh, yes, I remember that now.
Episode 9 was the results from the great car wash debate.
Yes.
Which everyone thought you should, which was interesting.
Everyone thought that we should wash the cars
on the street,
on our front gardens, on the street.
Yeah. There was a call out to try and remind people not to use Chinese lanterns for the NHS. And Captain Tom Moore had just reached 6 million.
Had he?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that was the
Did he do well?
It was, yeah. That was the 16th of April then.
Right.
So, episode 10, we had been in the Cams Times. We'd just had our write-up on there. Captain Tom had raised 18 million, and the business grants for those who have business rates, small business rates and rural rates, could apply for small grants. 11, the furlough scheme, claims for furlough was open. We talked about the calling for migrant workers to work in the fields, basically the reintroduction of the land army, and more support for key workers like posties and bin.
Oh yes, yeah. That's really interesting, isn't it? All these things have happened.
Yeah, it is quite a sort of I mean, actually look at what's happened when you go on. Episode 12 was ducks.
Ducks.
Yeah, that was what's happening to our ducks in lockdown.
I don't remember that.
Who's feeding the ducks?
That's right. I do remember now.
I did actually go and have a look, and funny enough, a guy had the week before had been fined £150 for feeding the ducks.
Had he?
Yeah. So that was interesting. That was and
is he going to pay it?
Well, he has challenged it, whether it's unnecessary. I think you should speak to the RSPCA about it.
Yeah, I do. That's it. That seems like an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
It wasn't really doing anything wrong. And I mean, were there signs up to say that the ducks shouldn't be fed?
It might have been because he wasn't exercising. I don't know. I would have to.
Oh, it's one of those.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Ah. This is very interesting, David.
The Wisbech Lloyd Bank had closed.
Yes,
because it'd been
deeply
decontaminated.
closed.
Well, it's now open again. If you weren't aware, it is now back up and open again. But it's only open from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. So they've got reduced hours.
So, you're also having to queue, I should think, there as well, aren't you?
Yeah,
certainly
with the March Lloyds, it's 1 in, 1 out.
Yeah. Oh dear, I don't know if you'd be able to get in and out of the bank with a queue and.
Well, I certainly it was shorter the second time I went. The first time it was down the street, and I didn't even bother. The second time I went, there was about 8 or 9 people in the queue, and we got there in about 40 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
But as we did point out, if you are going, make sure you've got appropriate warm weather gear or appropriate footwear. If you're going to be standing there for 40, 50 an hour, make sure you've got something that's either warm and comfortable.
Yeah.
Episode 13, Boris was back in charge, and COVID testing has started taking place in Peterborough Showgrounds, East of England Showgrounds.
Oh, yes.
And
that's the day that Boris was back at work.
Yeah, that was when he returned.
He hasn't done badly after his recovery, because, you know, when you speak to people who have recovered, they haven't got the energy they used to have.
Yeah.
And here you see him in PMQs. He's commanding his seat, isn't he? He seems to be doing a good job considering everything he's been through.
Yeah, I think having that extra time away has helped, because a lot of people are going through having to be rehabilitated and actually going through physical rehabilitation. They're having to learn how to breathe again. They're having to learn how to walk and to eat and speak and stuff. They're doing catching ball exercises just to try and get the body, because if those who have been on the ventilator for a couple of weeks, you know, their whole body has basically atrophied. So there's, you know, they've had machines to breathe and do everything for them. So just breathing again is such a big thing. And then there's also potential damage to the lungs as well.
Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
And the last thing from that day was people being fined for fishing, because fishing's not an exercise. That was the people down at Meeple, the fishing lake.
Yeah, if there's a loophole, people were finding them, weren't they?
Well, they were trying to. They didn't. It wasn't a loophole because they got caught. But you can go fishing now. That is one of the things.
Yes.
If you go with your family, you can fish. You can sit basketball, golf, tennis, and fishing are now back on the menu.
Very strange sports. Basketball.
Because it's non-contact.
Yeah.
But then you've got to think, as long as your hands are clean, I suppose.
I wouldn't fancy basketball right now. I could do golf.
Yeah, because you're not catching the ball. You're not passing the ball to someone else.
No.
Okay, episode 14 was Captain Tom's birthday.
Yay! Oh, 30th of April.
Yeah, but however, he was then made an honorary colonel.
Amazing.
And then
that's so amazing.
It was, and something like 30. Was it 30 million? He ended up raising.
Yeah.
An FDC, Fenland District Council, started going live with broadcasts of their planning meetings.
Yeah. So that must have been a Wednesday then, because the planning meetings are on a Wednesday. Or did we announce it?
I think we'd announced it, so that was the Thursday, so that was probably the day after. Yeah, it was the day after.
May the 6th. They started on May the 6th, I remember now.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me, David.
Episode 16 was the interview with Asa French, which was about the NHS work.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah, it was a lovely one. 17 was what to do if you hear migrants in trucks. What was to do with the transportation of migrants into the area, and what to do and how to deal with it if you suspect people being shipped, which is basically just phone 999, but take as many details as you can. That's been really good. Now, do you want to know how many listeners we've had so far total?
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Just going through all the figures, we've had 586. And that's across all the platforms.
Right. Wow.
So that's for 19 episodes so far.
That's good.
So really pleased with that. Really pleased with how popular, and it's still going up. You know, these people are still going back and listening to older episodes. We've now got listeners in Chile, in Santiago.
Have we?
Yeah, they've listened to a couple episodes, and we've got someone's listened to a couple episodes in Ukraine.
Yes, I find this amazing.
It shows what kind of global reach that we have. You know, the fact that they've just listened once and you think, okay, they've just stumbled across it, but then to listen for a second one, I think, you know, it's like, yeah, thanks. You know, thank you very much for actually making the effort to find another one.
Are we still being listened to in Virginia?
Yes, we are.
That's amazing.
They're usually one of the first people to listen to the show, because I think because it's obviously still daytime. By the time we actually launch the show, it's near enough midnight anyway. So, but to them,
time we're getting up.
Yeah, but for them, it's in the afternoon. So
it is, isn't it? Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's obviously arriving just at the right time for them. But yeah, they've been avid listeners, and we would like to thank those in Virginia and those in San Francisco as well.
Oh yes.
And Huntingdon, I think, is still the top in the leaderboard. You know, thank you to people in March, to Wiz Beach, Ramsey, Thrapston, you know, all these places around Fenland. You know, it's been nice that it's been well supported by people. Oh, and Chatteris as well, and Doddington and Kings Lynn, Wimbledon as well. Birmingham. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for everyone that's taken part, given up the time, because it's a lot to sit and go through an hour-long program. And I know not everyone has watched all of it, just because it's either not right for them or it's a lot to give up that time to listen. So, but we thank everyone who has given their time to actually take part and either contribute or just hopefully enjoyed what we've had to say.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, everybody.
We've got 41 people who are on the group, the Fenland chat. Yeah, which is brilliant. Which is just amazing that people still are just joining in and being part of it. We'll still put stuff on there as and when we find stuff. You know, feel free to leave.
How did that happen? How did that happen? We had 5 people we knew would listen.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you to everybody who supported us over the last few weeks. We've really enjoyed doing this.
Yes.
We've had a lot of laughs. Sadly, I don't have a montage. I just don't have the time to put a montage together of all the best bits. But yeah, we've had a really good time doing this, and we've now decided that it's time is right to finish and go off and do some proper work.
Yeah. Well, we have timed it well, actually, coming out of lockdown, because we are getting busy now, aren't we? So
yeah,
we do need the time back.
Yeah, we do. But this channel's not going to end. It's going to transition over to the Fenland Films Initiative, which is part the umbrella group that myself and Jodie were talking about. So we will then have the opportunity for people who are creating podcasts in the region who want to have another outlet for putting stuff out. Yes. And we've actually been approached by someone who wants to start up their own podcast as well. So off the news article that we had in the Cannes Times.
Yes.
So
that's amazing, isn't it?
It is, and it's great that people want to be involved, and it's given the inspiration to other people to actually take this up and give it a go.
Yes, it is.
I mean, we've said, we've learnt a lot, and we'll quite happily give our knowledge and experience to other people, so at least they can get started and talk about stuff that's passionate to them. So but we are looking, myself, to actually do some other projects which will appear, which are podcast based, and will appear from time to time in this podcast. So there will be stuff in the future. So it won't be the chat, but there'll be other bits and pieces that will drop in.
Sounds wonderful, David.
So we can't leaving them waiting.
No, and you've got a platform, and you've got a formula that works whilst we're in lockdown as well.
Yeah,
which is good.
So if we do end up being locked down again, if we do get the second wave, and we do have, we are complete.
Oh, let's hope not.
In China,
let's hope not.
Yeah, in China, when they were locked down, they physically were locked down. They actually had the doors welded shut in their apartment blocks. Hopefully we will never get to that point in this country.
I really hope not, but if we do, then we know this works, so we could help again, couldn't we? I mean, that was the intention, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To help during lockdown. And that's what we wanted to do. And it was our way of volunteering our time to help people. We just didn't realise that we'd be very busy.
Well, hopefully in the next 3 months or so, maybe, we'll actually have a live show. So the intention will be to do maybe a couple of guests, and we will actually be in the same place. And we'll actually do a roundup podcast. Is it worth seeing if we can sort of make proposals, sort of predictions of what might happen before then, and then we can talk about it on the show when we get there and see.
Yeah. So this is like our time capsule.
Yeah. What do we think is going to happen?
Time capsule. What do I think is going to happen
before the next?
Before the next one? I think what will happen before the next one, I will have my hair done.
Yeah.
I think. Now, this is interesting, actually, David, because I know that the government have said by July the 2nd, we'll be able to go have hair done, have manicures, pedicures, and what have you.
Yeah.
All things that I desperately need doing.
Yes.
Because it's essential, you see. But I've had not my hairstylist, but I have been contacted and said, right, we've all these people in those professions are getting COVID-19 training, which is great.
Yeah.
And they've all got properly set up. They've got their gloves, their face protectors, proper PPE, as you would if you were going into hospital now, or the dentist, or what have you.
Yeah.
But there is something in my head that says, don't book an appointment, because we're not there yet, and it would not be the right thing to do. And I don't know why that is, or, this kind of gut feeling. So what I do know is by the time we do a live broadcast all together, I will have my hair done, and I will have had a pedicure.
I might have had a shave by then as well. I do think it's interesting. I think if this is where it goes two ways. If we have our next show in 3 months' time, then we've not had the second wave.
Yeah.
We've managed to avoid it.
Yeah.
If we don't have a second one, another show in 3 months' time, the doggy doo-doos hit the fan.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? If whatever when we do get to that part, what we will know is that we've survived it. And that's a big thing. You know, I was saying to you yesterday, everybody, or not everybody, but some professions have gone back to work.
Yeah.
People have been encouraged to go back to work and come off furlough if they can. So I had lots of cold calls, which I told you about.
Yeah.
But I wasn't emotionally ready for that. So we have both been working throughout this time period. And I thought to myself, well, nothing's changed. I'm working, I'm getting on, I'm doing accounts, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like I would usually do.
Yeah.
I'm still having school governor meetings, I'm still having church meetings, but we're doing it online. Well, it made me realise, no, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready. So coming out of this is emotionally difficult. It's you think your life hasn't changed, but it really has. And did I say to you about KFC? There's one open in Kings Lynn at the moment, the drive-through.
Yeah, and I know they're planning to open the March one next week.
Yes. So lots of queuing, I get that. But a discarded box on the verge.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we talked about this last time.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
So you can't just go and pick it up.
No.
You can't. There's litter. Well, that's the only bit of litter that I've seen, but still.
It's going to come back.
I didn't like it. I really didn't like it at all.
Yes, it does change how you deal with everyday items, and that normally you just see something on the floor, and most planet conscious people would end up picking it up and just dropping it in the bin, and you'll get those who automatically do that now anyway, you know, cigarette butts and stuff like that, and you think you can't do that now. You've got to do something a little bit more different, and that's something that hasn't even been talked about. You know, that's, you know, a cigarette butt that's been in someone's mouth who's got COVID. It's contaminated for at least 72 hours. There's potential traces on the item that's been discarded, and you are then putting it into the bin, and you are physically touching it, and then yes, you've got to wash your hands, but that moment when you forget. You know, and it's going to get back to a lifestyle where people just start touching things and handling stuff and forgetting to wash with hand sanitizer and stuff. And it's gonna. This is why we're saying that, you know, that there's so much potential for a second wave, because it's going to end up coming through different ways that you wouldn't have originally thought.
Yes.
Now, I would like to finish on one thing. It was a story that was written by Douglas Adams called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And the entire population of the world died out. Do you remember why?
No, I just remember that the meaning of life is 42.
That was part of it. The reason for it was they'd sacked the telephone hand sanitizer, the handset sanitizer.
It's all coming to be.
Yeah, because they'd got rid of the telephone set hand sanitizers, had been dismissed. So then germs then got onto telephones, and all over the world, everyone was using hand phones, and then they all got the disease and died. So even Douglas Adams is predicting the future again.
That is bizarre.
Because people have now got mobile phones, and if they're not cleaning them properly, you can end up having a dirty telephone.
The world according to Douglas Adams.
Again.
Again, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So I thought I'd finish on that sort of interesting quirk.
I think that's amazing.
Right, well, I think that's it for us. we've rattled on for an hour or so. So I think it's time to come to an end. Come to the end of the show. Come to the end of the series. And
let's hope, David, we don't have to be in a position where we're doing number 2.
What, second series?
Yeah, well, I mean, as in a second series of lockdown help. Because that would be a bad thing. Would mean we're in a bad place.
I think if we do season 2, I'm going to be in a gas mask and full PPE. I think that if we get to that point, we are going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can you imagine the internet connection then?
We'll have to do it with semaphore and smoke.
Yes. We'll need to get some help from Andrew Callahan.
Yes. Series 2 will be brought to you with Morse code.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for everyone being part of the show. It's been great to have you all there listening with us as well throughout this short journey. Hopefully we won't see you again, but if it does, then obviously things have gone horribly wrong. Thank you, Amanda, for being my usual co-host and co-presenter, and you've certainly made this a very enjoyable series.
Thank you, David. And so have you.
Thank you.
Lovely.
I think it would have been so much different if I tried to do this on my own. But this was your idea.
Well, I think that we came up with something quite good, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
We got there in the end.
We did in the end.
So I will say goodbye from me.
Goodbye from you, David.
No, you've got to do it yourself.
And it's goodbye from him.
No, come from
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, Amanda. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.